Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris. Today I'm going to be going over the performance management chapter from the textbook, the case study with Maple Leaf Shoes. The people in the group today are Jack Robert, Derek Lowe, Quinn Baker, myself, and Matthew Durick. So first off, I'd like to start by going over what is performance management. So performance management is the process of creating a work environment which enables employees to perform at their best potential in order to meet organizational goals. This involves offering continuous education, training, coaching, and feedback, provide career development opportunities, providing instruments for measuring, managing, and improving the efficiency of an organization, transform organizational objectives into clearly understood and measurable outcomes, and lastly, to offer compensation systems that reward employees for exceptional work contributions. Here we go. Sorry there. Alright, so the Maple Leaf Shoes case. So Maple Leaf Shoes is a medium-sized manufacturer of leather and vinyl shoes. The company was established in 1973. They have approximately 500 employees in its Wilmington, Ontario plant and 200 more in offices and warehouses around Ontario. This case, though it affects the entire company, took place in the Wilmington, Ontario plant. The case covers issues with the company's performance appraisals. The company's performance appraisals of employees are to be completed by plant managers in 1 week and are to be submitted to the personnel department. The previous personnel manager, John McAllister, developed their current appraisal system in which he believes the form should be simple to understand and easy to complete. John McAllister is no longer at the company. He was, as I said, the previous personnel manager. So the employee assessments are supposed to be discussed with their manager and then returned to the personnel department for filing in the employee's personal records. These appraisals are to be significantly considered during promotions and raises for the employees. So Jane Reynolds, who is now the current personnel manager, or special assistant, sorry, in the personnel department, she really disapproves of the current appraisal system within the company and would like to conduct a new approach. Robert Clark, who is the company president, has refused any change so far, which has caused Jane to feel hesitant to tell him. So Reynolds, on her own, she conducted an informal survey to discover how managers and employees feel about the current appraisal system. She found that over 60% of managers and 75% of employees felt either indifferent or negative about the appraisal system. So, and as well as that, 50% of supervisors completed the forms in under 3 minutes or less without discussing the results with their employees. 40% spent some time with the employees for feedback, and only 10% attempted to do proper performance feedback. So these two names, Jane Reynolds and Robert Clark, they are big names in the company, and especially in this case, as they're the ones that are relatively decisive to what happens. So essentially, Reynolds knows the forms were rarely retrieved for promotion or raises by her previous boss, McAllister. Because of this, most supervisors feel the evaluation program is useless. Reynolds remembers Tim Lance, who was hired as a consultant for the company, who was to essentially look into the personnel department for areas of improvement that would benefit the company. So Tim Lance was hired by Clark, the company president. Lance recommended numerous changes, which never got brought into detail. But Clark waited to make any until a new personnel manager was hired. Lance recommended a new approach to appraising employee performance, and now Reynolds feels this gives her a good reason, or felt that gave her a good reason to push forward for a revision of the current system. However, Reynolds is kind of in a time cramp. She has to prepare for contract negotiations with 2 separate unions next month, and 2 more coming up a month later. She's confident that Clark will accept her recommendation to hire Lance again to come up with a new performance appraisal system. All she has to do is go and tell him. So the key mistakes made by the company in this whole situation is that one, the company president, Robert Clark, refuses to make any changes to the company, even if the suggestions are beneficial. Number two is Jane Reynolds, the special assistant, is hesitant to offer any alternative appraisal systems due to Clark's stubbornness. She's kind of scared and doesn't want to cause any conflict in the company. Three, over half of the employees and managers disagree with the current performance appraisal system. Four, supervisors do not provide feedback to employees regarding their performance reviews, causing a lack in employee development and maybe even a little bit of care. When you're doing your job and you're doing it well, it's nice to have a little bit of feedback to be told how to do it better. And five, lastly, the company has never provided any training for its supervisors on how to conduct professional performance appraisals to their employees. So, first off, that needs to be done, in my opinion, and my group's opinion. That's very key to making sure that the performance appraisals are very effective in the long run. So looking a little bit deeper at the issue, the primary issue that Maple Leaf Shoes is facing regarding their performance appraisal system is the company's inability to recognize and implement effective change to their current assessment. Robert Clark, the president of Maple Leaf Shoes, has verified his resistance to change from the current performance appraisal system and is subsequently showcasing to Jane Reynolds that this is not an area in which the company needs to improve on. Despite the evidence that the system is not being used for its intended purposes, including promotion and raise verifications, the president of the company has failed to remain vigilant in accepting feedback from his subordinates. Tim Lance also put in his word and verified that there was an issue with the current performance appraisal system, but failed to enact change. As John McAllister was still in management, Lance likely didn't want to raise any conflict, as McAllister was the individual who designed the performance appraisal system. It is also evident that Maple Leaf Shoes has never offered any type of training in regards to the performance appraisal assessment for its supervisors. This really is a key point that needs to be attacked as soon as possible before any real change can be made. And it also contradicts good practice, as it's outlined in the Canadian Human Resource Management Book. So the significance of these issues, what they might result in, essentially for the employees, it can create a really non-motivated workplace. It can also ruin the company culture. And those two kind of work hand in hand. When you're trying to build a company culture, it's very important that your employees are motivated and very excited to work hard and create a nice environment to work in day to day. It could also, secondhand, decrease the production quality. That really does hold back the company and where they want to go. It also, when they're not motivated and tracked for improvement, they'll stagnate, which is really not what you want in an organization. It could also result in a high company turnover rate. Essentially, all the employees that do want to improve their ability will eventually develop to the point of want to eventually develop to the point of management position, will realize they're not getting that attention at Maple Leaf Shoes, and will eventually just leave, find another job somewhere else that will take care of them. This can be very costly for the company and could very easily result in a lot of fees that really aren't necessary if they just attacked it from the inside. So what should they do? Maple Leaf Shoes can hire their consultant Tim Lance back, who previously recommended numerous changes but got overlooked. If hired, Tim Lance would help develop a new performance appraisal system that could actually make change in the company and make the employees feel motivated day to day to work. How we would solve the issue? We would add information to the assessments weekly or daily, so that when an evaluation has to be done, there isn't a little detail that isn't left out. It also makes it very easy and quick for the managers to handle when they have a lot of information already set aside for it. Hiring an outside party to create the job surveys while doing an in-depth analysis on the current day-to-day activities would also be very beneficial to the company. A big thing that's become a standard for all sizes of firms has been a web-based performance appraisal system. So maybe that might fit the company a little bit better. Ideally, performance appraisal software is part of an enterprise-wide software system, so it would essentially cover the entire company. It would be very easy to manage who's doing what. And it can also be done at home and not in a workplace setting if employees feel too pressured. So if a manager really wants to do their performance appraisal on an employee, they can take their notes that they made at work and bring it back home and do it there instead if they have lots of stuff to do while they're in the office. A big focus on the competency side of the assessment would also be very beneficial. Focusing more on skills than the job performance when creating evaluation forms would really allow a bigger picture for the employees when they're hearing all of the feedback that they're receiving. It also makes them feel that they're being developed in a lot bigger picture than just like fixing one small task here and there, even though it might get down to that point. Also, talent management is very important. Identifying and developing the specific skills individuals have and pushing them to their highest potential. Making sure that everybody's working in the right area. Maybe somebody just started and they start getting these performance reviews and they find out it really isn't the best fit, but the manager, due to keeping up to date on what the employee is doing, realizes maybe they'll fit in a better department better. Fit better in a different department, and then that'll allow the employee to really flourish and develop in that department and eventually build a very solid career. So I just want to thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and there are 2 discussion questions underneath here. Feel free to reply to them, and awesome. I hope you have a great week.